Hi everyone and welcome to K-Tapes. This week we're going to take a look at what I should call maybe my collection, although it's not really, it's not really my collection because I do not collect these tapes like to keep them, but I do collect them to actually sell them to collectors. So in that sense, this is my collection and those are the tapes that I'm selling. So everything you see in there, they're all Korean tapes and they're all for sale. I do have a personal collection of other tapes, but I do not keep I keep them in there, but they are like somewhere else, and I don't have like many of them. I'll probably show them to you later on. But today, let's focus on this collection right here, and these are all the tapes that I do have for sale. So let's check. Well, you may ask me, okay, but what are those tapes exactly? Like what genre? Is there like something specific? Well, of course, I go with what people like to see and like to collect, which are horror movies. But I do have like a couple of sci-fi films. I do have like, I don't know, some kids films, but weird stuff from Asia. I have, oh my God, I have so many things. So anyway, let's start with my first shelf right here. So what you see here, of course, those are all the series, all right? So let's go with like all the popular series back in the States, and I mean, they're popular everywhere. So Friday the 13th, you have it there. You have all the Nightmare on Elm Street. So right here, you got part 1 going up to part 7. Yeah, 7, A New Nightmare. And there it starts with Halloween, Halloween 2. This was actually, it's pretty rare. I find it a bit ugly because it's using part of a Japanese movie cover called St. John's Wort. This is part of that film here. So it doesn't really use anything from Halloween, as you can see on the cover, except maybe the little pumpkin hit right there. But this is Halloween 2, the uncut version. See, this looks way more like Halloween right there. So this was the uncut version that came out early 2000. It's quite rare. It's not that pretty. I mean, I don't find it pretty. Maybe some collectors would be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" But yeah, anyway, it's a really rare one. Right here, you get like Halloween 3, which is much more impressive right there. That's a really cool tape. By the way, you'll have to excuse me if the focus, I mean not the focus, but the camera angle isn't like too good when I'm showing tapes, because the lens I'm using is a 55mm, so you need to be like a bit far away from what you're shooting. So I'm sorry for that. I could shoot with my my phone, but quality is a bit shitty. So if we go down here, we'll continue with Halloween. So of course, Halloween Resurrection, everyone's favorite. Not. Still, we got a Korean release. Pretty cool. This here is extremely rare, but I showed it to you in my previous video. That's the the Rob Zombie version, the remake. Horrible film. Well, maybe not as horrible as the second one, but the first one got a Korean release. Here we're moving on to this pretty clean and amazing copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 1. I don't know like how many times people told me that, but I know it's the picture from the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that's Part 1, trust me. Right there. That's a copy of Part 2. And this is another copy of Part 2. 2 copies came out. So the one on the left is the re-release. I think was uncut. Yeah, it says no cut. And this one was the first edition. The first edition is actually quite stunning, I have to admit. So that's for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you go down here, there's even like the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the second one of Texas. This one is rare. This one was called Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The New Beginning. It's really rare. Why? Because it came out later, and came out like when tapes were dead back in the States. So this is a pretty rare copy right there. Over here we have all the Hellraiser, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6. I think that's enough, personally. Over there, this is Return of the Living Dead. So Return of the Living Dead 1, 2, and 3. It's strange because a long time ago, 2 was, well, 2 has always, second part has always been the easiest one to find. Part 3, I found maybe 2 or 3 copies, but part 1 was pretty rare. But recently, I don't know, like some people came out with a bunch of copies of part 1. So I may say that part 3 is the rarest one of all 3. If we go down here, we have, I mean, if you ask me, is there like a logic in the way I put them in the shelves, on the shelves? There's no real like specific logic or anything. It's just like the way I put them, so I know where they are. If someone asked me, like, I would put, let's say, like, I don't know, some zombie movies together, or I don't know, like some 80s films together, like just like some basic themes, so I know where I'm looking at. But if it was like really my collection, I would maybe organize them by director. So that's just how I do things. So right there, what you have, Howling, you have Buried Alive 2. I think it was made for TV. That one is pretty rare. A couple of other ones there, The Fly, the blue spines there under the Trust Home Cinema label. Those are, which one are, what's that again? Oh yeah, Waxwork. This one is pretty rare too. That's Demons 2. Pretty cool cover. The next two, that's Basket Case 2 and Basket Case 3. Surprisingly, I've never found a Basket Case 1, and that's the one that everyone wants to see, but I have 2 and 3 in stock. Hellhole, would you have like Happy Birthday to Me, The Stepfather 2 and 3. If we move down here, what do I have? Wax Mask, that's the first one there. I have 2 copies of it. And then we move on to a couple of more like series, Psycho 4, Jaws 4, Dolls. By the way, this label right here, I don't know if you can see it, this label right there, this is the Oasis label. Oasis is quite collectible in Korea. I don't know why, but some Korean collectors, there are not many of them, but they are all looking for that label. Anything that's been made on that label. It's pretty much like everything that Vestron put out on tape back in the States was re-released in Korea under the Oasis label. So anyway, cool thing to keep in mind. Right there, this is quite rare film. It's from Argentina. It's like horror kind of film from Argentina called The Love of the Wolf. I do have a copy in stock. It's pretty rare stuff. Now if we move on, over there is nothing really special. Some cool films like The Kindred, like the VHS cover is really cool. This one is not popcorn. Kindred, that's a really cool cover. It's like really in your face. It's really nice. Okay, what else? If I move up to this shelf right here, this shelf has really nice stuff. You can see the Trauma tapes. They're really rare. I hate Trauma, by the way, but those tapes are really rare. So The Last Temptation of Toxie, that's Toxic Avenger Part 2. Right here I have like Class of Nukem High. This is Sergeant Kabuki Man. Romeo and Juliet. So those are the 4 Trauma tapes I was able to find in Korea. I know that Toxic Part 1 exists as well. So this one is available. I haven't found it yet. It's pretty expensive. I think, no, I found 1 copy, but it was pricey. So I didn't buy it. So right here, what next we have is Night of the Living Dead, the original Night of the Living Dead. Although the picture I think comes from the remake, but that's the original George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And it's a pretty clean copy, by the way. It's like a Nearman copy. This is Dawn of the Dead. I know, it's like the picture of City of the Living Dead, but it's Dawn of the Dead. And this one is also Dawn of the Dead. So there are like two releases for Dawn of the Dead. Two different copies, two different artwork. And I believe there are two different cuts of the film. The one on the right is the European cut, and this one I don't remember. I would need to check it out. So that's for Dawn of the Dead. I have two copies of Dawn. It's pretty rare, so the minute I found another copy, I just grabbed it and put it in my inventory. Land of the Dead, that too is, it's not very common these days. What else? Night of the Creeps, that's cool. So here, as you can see, there's like just the zombie films I've put together because it's easier to find for me. So Revenge of Living Zombies. Geez, I forgot the title for this one, but it has the actor from the guy who plays the first zombie in Night of the Living Dead. When the other dude is like Barbara. So anyway, it's made by this guy, and he plays in the movie. Forgot the title. Sorry. So Dead Alive right here, everyone's favorite. Neon Maniacs, this one was Dead Pit. This is Dead Pit. And this one, Hell Night, I believe. Hell Night. Move on to the next shelf. So this shelf is like the cannibal stuff. So hey, you have zombie stuff, then might as well have the cannibal tapes right next to it, right? So the Cannibal films, Last Cannibal, here it says Cannibal Holocaust 2, which is Eaten Alive. Holocaust 4 is Dinosaur Valley. This is Mundo Magic. It's pretty cool. This is kind of like the same label, so I put them together. Goodbye Uncle Tom. Mundo Cane Ogi, that's kind of like the Mundo Cane 3, the unofficial one from 1985. Getting rare as well. It's like an older release. This is the first release of Amazonia, like the story of... Geez, I'm terrible. My memory is terrible today. I worked all day, I'm sorry. The story of something Miles, I forgot the first name of the girl, but that's the first release right here, really cool. And this is the re-release, which is even harder to find. This one is quite hard to find, but this one is really uncommon. But that's the uncut version. Came out in the early 2000s, and you can see some graphic footage on the cover, which is quite unusual for Korea. If we continue with the zombie theme, we have, of course, two copies of Cannibal Apocalypse. Really cool film and really cool release as well, as you can see right there. Really nice. Okay, Mario Bava Hatchet for Honeymoon. This is a mint copy, and those are like two different labels, but same film. Same thing for The Burning. Oh no, sorry, this one is I Spit on Your Grave uncut version. Front cover is, in my opinion, horrible. Back cover, there you go. What we expect. And there you have The Burning. This is the first release, and this is the uncut re-released version. Move down. Okay, right here we have some John Carpenter films. So The Thing, Body Bags. I got a Romero film right here, The Dark Half. Some very rare Dario Argento films. I mean, these days, I don't know why, but no one is buying them, but they're quite rare. I mean, those are hard to find, especially this one here. This is Deep Red, and it's a gorgeous version. I mean, the copy is gorgeous. And I think they used that artwork for maybe Suspiria in Japan, but they reused that for the release of Deep Red in Korea. But this tape is really rare. I found it only once, and this is the only copy I have. There you have Phenomena. You have Stendhal Syndrome, Sleepless, and The Card Player. Okay, a couple more horror films right there. And of course, Aquarius, which was Stage Fright, the Michel Soavi film, Michele, whatever. Okay, over here, the last shelf. What do we have? Maniac Cop 2 and 3. I do have one, but it's not in the same spot. Those are more like Hong Kong, or some are like Taiwanese films right there. A couple of rare films in there, especially this one is called The Miracle. This is rare. What do I have? This too is quite rare. It's called Deadly Silver Angels. It's a cool film. Okay, if I move on to the first shelf here, this is my rare stuff. I mean, I put everything in this shelving unit. Whoops, sorry for the focus. The shelving unit right here. This is all my rare stuff, except maybe the bottom shelf. But this first shelf here has all the small boxes, and the thing with the small boxes in Korea is they're kind of more collected by, I mean, collectors really want them because they came out all before like 1988, which is pretty much like the Korean Olympics, and Korea wasn't very, very rich country back then. So the small tapes, which are also all the first releases, they were really, really collectible, and usually they get like to some very expensive prices down here. So that's why I don't have many of them. But I do have 2 copies of Halloween. And Halloween, let me tell you, now it's nearly, I wouldn't say impossible to find, but it is really hard to find right now. And I'm really happy I do have 2 copies in stock. Someone's probably going to snatch it somehow, but I mean, this is rare, so I'm going to hold on to it. So there's Halloween, 2 copies, and that was under the Gold Star label. Gold Star, which by the way became LG later on. So these are the small boxes. Cool stuff right there. Other really rare tapes. You got Zombie. So this is Full Cheese Zombie. You have Just Before Dawn, really beautiful copy. Blood Harvest, that's quite hard to find. And Maniac Cop 1, and this one is pretty much mint. Hitchhike, that's rare. The Ogre as well. If I move on to the next shelf, I have a bunch of DNS tapes right there. See, DNS, this is a really cool label. They release like so many cool horror films, like all the Fulci films and everything. That was all released under DNS, or mostly DNS. So I have Enigma right here, New York Ripper. Oh, and even like this one is the Devil's Honey. So another Fulci. So there you go. All cool stuff. If you have any questions, by the way, do not be shy and just post it down below, and I'll answer your question. If there's something you're wondering, oh, what was that tape on that shelf, I'll let you know. Okay, just gonna move my VCR. All right. So once again, like this shelf is getting like the less rare stuff, but I just still put everything under like the same theme. Here you have some 21C. See that label? I just put them together. Nothing really fancy. It's like Doll Man, Split Second. Cool films, but I mean, nothing that rare. I would say that what's really collectible on this shelf would be this one is totally mint. That's such a gorgeous box. Maybe not a film everyone wants, but called 10 Violent Women. This one's quite rare. That's a Caligula spin-off. I think it was by Bruno Mattei. Anyway, that's a cool one with French. It's called Les Orgies de Caligula, the Orgies of Caligula. That's a cool one. This is Caligula, the original film, but uncut version. That's why it's on 2 tapes, because it's a bit long. And finally, the last shelf. This is a bit like, I wouldn't say the bottom of the barrel, but it's more like stuff that I have, but that didn't really sell, to be honest, because just, I don't know, there's no interest in those films right now. But I have like cool films here. I mean, the Death Wish series, I have 1, 3, and 4. I got The Punisher, that's a cool film too. What else? Extro 2, although it just says Extro on the spine. I have an amazing copy of, see that one with 3 right there? Look at this. Just look at this. I mean, come on. It's really cool. So Rambo 3 got like such a gorgeous cover in Korea. I mean, I wonder no one snatched that one yet. I mean, it's not that expensive. I'll probably put it back up on my website, but if anyone wants it, that's a rare one, and it's in top shape. So there you go. Rambo 3. Okay. So now I'm gonna show you the last shelf. So this is all the stuff that it's been piled up and I need to sort out a bit. Everything's been clean, everything is nice, but some I didn't put on my website for sale yet. And those are like multiple copies I have. So for example, I have like 2 copies of Black Vampire, 2 copies of Vampire Circus. Oh, right there you got a gorgeous copy of Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 3. Those are highly collectible and they always like fly. Whenever I put a copy for sale, they sell. Down here, what do I have? Of course, I showed you those before. If you look in the older videos I posted like a week or 2 ago, I made a video about like all the late releases in Korea, just like this one. This is Avatar on 2 tapes. And right behind this, I won't show you, well, I can show you, but it's all like those late releases I put in the video I made before, like The Dark Knight, 007, Quantum of Solace. So nothing that fancy. So this is like horror stuff I piled up, more horror stuff I need to put for sale. Again, right there, same thing. Edge of Sanity, Night Killer, another pile right here, more horror. Here again, this one with a big 2 is Warbus 2. It's a really cool copy too. That's quite rare. What else? A couple of Italian films right there. Devil Came from Akasava, that's Jess Franco. And finally, this is like all the action stuff, like Jungle Action and Why Not, like, I don't know, Godfrey Ho films. So that's what you see here. Finally, if I just move on right here, okay, you get like a couple more horror films. This is really rare, by the way. That's an Indonesian film, an Indonesian action film called Forceful Impact. I mean, can't go wrong with this. And that's rare. Yeah, Indonesian film. I think like someone keeps asking about the Indonesian films online, and to be honest, I think like a handful of them were released in Korea. So I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe less than 10, more than 5, so somewhere around that, but really not many. Right there you have La Morte Vivante, which is like Jean Rollin film, Robo Vampire, that's really cool. Again, this is a Joe D'Amato film, 11 Days, 11 Nights. Maybe some of you might find this interesting, but those are like Korean kids films. So you have like this weird Korean RoboCop right here. Sadly, I watched it and there's no, like, this character is not in the film. However, there are 2 parts for this. This one says part 1 right here. It says part 1, so there's like a part 2, like a second tape. So probably RoboCop makes his appearance in the second tape, but sadly not in this one. And this is like almost impossible to find. I have part 1 and I don't even know how I found that. That's super rare. This one is from a Japanese animation, and I believe maybe like a manga. I think it was called The Magic Hat. It's pretty rare as well. This is part 1, and there's also a part 2 for this tape. Or just like a second movie. These are some Gangxi films, some hopping vampires from China and Taiwan. And finally, right here, this is I call it the Korean Batman, but it was for kids. Cool action, cool choreography, and it's cool. Yeah, it's a really nice little film. Fun costumes, great action. Kids loved it back then, 90s. Anything else worth pulling to show you? Maybe just one. This is Yongari. That was like, again, very famous in the late 90s. I think they came out with a US DVD of this called Reptilian. So yeah, so that's the same movie. Well, all right. Well, maybe last thing. This is my VCR. This is how I play my film and just check playback sometime. And right here, it's hooked up to this capture card, and it's going into the computer. So this is how I check my stuff. And finally, I'll put this VCR back. This is the VCR I'm using for cleaning my tapes. So this is pretty much kind of like my setup and the tape collection. Although, like I said before, this is not the tapes I keep for my personal collection, but more like all the stuff I have in stock and that I'm willing to part with and sell. Yeah. So again, if there's something that you're interested in and maybe want to ask me any questions, please comment down below and I'll be more than happy to answer your requests, your questions, or whatever. So thank you. Take care, guys. Have a good week and see you on the next K-Tapes.